sisters. How full are we today? Makes my mind reflect back on Grace. When I first went to Grace, attended Grace Church, where Charity was there, if everybody sat on this row, we can fill it. That was Grace Church back in the early 2000s. So to me, looking around, I'm still seeing a full church. A full church. You know, brothers and sisters, I remember as a child seeing my dad being a very busy person. I asked him, what's happening, Dad? And he was trying to contact everybody he could get his hands on at that time. He reached the Attorney General, he reached the Prime Minister, and you'd wonder why. Because he got a promotion. And he didn't want some of the perks that went with that promotion. Because he was promoted, and part of that promotion was a fantastic house they were going to give us. We were living in a small, 3-bedroom house in what should I say? Not so good part of the country. But he didn't want that house that they were giving. Why he didn't want that house? It was in the prisons. Being a prison welfare officer, he got promoted to senior prison welfare officer. Most of us here may have seen my dad before he passed on, visited Grace a couple of times. But while he spent over 30 years working, helping prisoners, and even in his retirement, he gave up his free time working for them. He didn't want his children to live on the compound and have prisoners walking all around and through his house. He drew a line where Christianity was and where his work was. He said, I don't mind the job. I don't mind working hard. I don't mind giving up my weekend and helping in any situation. But he had a problem with his kids mingling with prisoners. He said, if there's a birthday break, what's going to happen? Who's the first hostage you're going to take? Not my kids. I'll work with them. But when you think, do we forgive people? Our little talk today will be based on a second chance. Do you forgive readily? In the news, over the past couple of weeks, we saw about this footballer. What's his name, Karl? I know you're a great football fan. All right, Cheddar. Right. And he and another friend had a night out with a young lady. So happened, they get charged for rape. The guy did his term in prison, whether it's a short, long. He did all the time, but he did what was on the books. How many of us are willing to forgive and give that professional footballer another chance in life? Think on it. Was Paul not a murderer? Did he not take people to prison? If we can't forgive, what's the use of prison ministry? Why should we go out there, give up our weekends? Back in Trinidad, when I did prison ministry, it wasn't as easy as just driving to the prison. We drove to Caranage, waited on the boat, and we went to a prison island called Carrera. And when you go there, they didn't have, like we have the brown bins for food, to recycle and what have you. On that prison island, there was just a little chute that went to the sea. So you didn't need much guards. These little fish with the big fins would come for food and they'll be circling the island. That was your major form of God. And sometimes when I visited the prison before my dad died, while living there, prison officers would be so happy. They'll say, Brother Mac, thanks for coming. We are short. They're always short of prison officers on that prison island. We are short. So he was retired and he was working. Take 100, take whatever. And they go to listen to the word. And even here we continue. And we need to be able to remember what the scripture says. But do we see people in the Bible getting second chances? Anybody could think of anyone in the Bible who got a second chance? Anyone? Paul, David, and okay, let's start with David. Rather than going to war, he decided to stay home and send his soldiers. He wasn't leading his army as in those days. He was behaving as the present leaders of this world. Send the little boys, you ought to go and get killed. But back in the day, the leaders, the kings, they went to battle. He saw a lady taking a bath while he was walking around his castle. He was surveying his charges, saw a lady taking a bath, invited her for dinner, and after that invitation, it went a little more and a little more. Eventually he committed what we may call murder, because he instructed his men, go forward and withdraw, and leave her husband to be killed. But then when we look at Christ, look at the descendants coming down. Is Christ not one of the descendants of Solomon, who is, or who was, from that relationship? Not the exact child, but the next child that followed. So there was a second chance coming through there. We may look at, who else? Jonah. If you look at the book of Jonah, chapter 1. Now we are going through now from verse 1 and Jonah chapter 1 to verse 4. We are seeing here that God spoke to Jonah about a place called Nineveh. God said to Jonah, chapter 1, and I'm starting with verse 1 to 4. Go forward. Go to Nineveh. What did Jonah do? Who could help me? He went his own way. He headed to Tarshish. He went down to get a boat to take a ride to another direction. Jonah did not do what God asked him to do. Jonah decided, I am not going where God is sending me. And why did Jonah not want to go where God was sending him? Jonah's heart was like most of our heart. Jonah was a man like all of us. He looked around, he saw that these guys, they were evil, they were wicked, they were violent. How many of us want to give a violent person a second chance? Now we looked at David, and his sin was not the same one as Jonah. One was lusting, going into adultery. But Jonah here was a different situation. Jonah did not want to save these people. He found that God is too gracious. He was too marvelous. God was too merciful. Jonah did not want to free these people from their sins. He wanted them to serve the situation that they put themselves in. They did the crime. You guys need to do some time. You need to die. I'm not going to forgive. How many of us are like that? We all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. How many of us could say we are without sin? None. The only person passed through this earth who can say they are without, that he was without sin, was Christ. All of us have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And that's the situation. You look at Jonah, he heads to Tarshish. 1 verse 4. We see that the wind started to blow the ship. The mariners tried to call to their God. Jonah did not want to bother with that. He wanted to sleep. He knew what he did. Eventually, when they realized, after throwing out all the birds, it's either we or Jonah, they listened to Jonah, they chucked Jonah out of that ship. God prepared a massive whale, or big fish, as the Bible says. Swallowed Jonah. He stayed in the belly of the whale how many days? 3 days, 3 nights. Throw him out on the beach, a couple of days journey. He walked, he went, he did the work of the Lord. Do you think Jonah was happy? No. He did it because he wanted to live. He realized God was serious. But Jonah still went up and set camp just outside Nineveh. And then Jonah was an angry man. Because God told him, go and preach. The guys, even down to the animals, fasted. No food. They prayed. The humans prayed. They got their acts together. They changed their lives. And they moved on. Should we not be able to do that with each other? Should we not be able to forgive and forget? We should be able to forgive. We should be able to forget, because we have all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And if we want God to forgive us when we do wrong, should we not forgive our brothers and our sisters? Whatever we sow, we shall reap. We cannot sow peas and expect to reap apple. Whatever you send ahead is there for you, brothers and sisters. We need to think upon these things. And you know the scripture reading at the end, the verse after 44 said, as long as you do it to the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me. If you see someone homeless, what should we do? If you see a brother or sister in need of food, what should we do? Just last week, I was at Lakeside. I was upstairs having a meal late in the evening, just around closing time. And what did I see these guys doing? A garbage bag. And they're throwing all the food that wasn't sold for the dump. I mean, it won't cost you anything to give it. You know, it doesn't cost anything. We can give. If you have an extra jacket, either you get too big or the jacket get too small. Or you get too small and you look like, you know, a bag and a jacket. We could give it. We don't need to throw it in the bin. We can give someone. There are people in need, not because we are in the first world. We can give. We can visit those who are sick. We can visit those who are in prison. And when we cannot visit, we can use a phone. At least most of us have extra minutes going back to the phone company when the month is finished. And some of us have unlimited calls, unlimited texts. What about, how are you, brother? How are you, sister? I didn't see you for the week, month, the year. Sometimes a whole year passed. One sister remarked, and nobody called, and she wasn't out to church. How does that look? Are we really brothers and sisters? The person who usually sits in your row in church, if you don't see them, could we not give them a call? Can we think of anyone else in the Bible who the Lord had forgiven? Mary Magdalene. Anyone else? Many spirits? Lady of the night? Anyone else we could think of? Abraham? Yes? Anyone else? I'm just going through the Bible. Yes? Jacob? Yes? David? Yes, we covered David. Anybody else? Rahab? Yes? And even though she was a lady of the night, even she, Christ, is a descendant of. We may use different words to describe the ladies who work in the oldest profession, but not generally. We would use it to say she was the mother or great mother of Christ. We need to think. We need to forgive. We need to move on. There was one guy who was aiming for money. He was upon his ass, going to curse God's people. Who can tell me his name? Balaam. So what did the ass do? When the ass saw the angel with the sword waiting to put them or shorten their life. Yeah, and imagine this man was arguing with the ass. He was arguing. When the ass tried to pass against the wall, away from the angel and create his leg on the wall. We need to reflect on these things. The angel moved across a little more. So the ass decided, well, if you want to go, I'm going. So he threw him over. And he started beating the ass. 3 times he struck that ass. 3 times. 3 times. And then the Lord opened the mouth of the ass. So the ass asked him, so what happened? Why are you beating me? What's going on? I have been your servant since you purchased me. But you are beating me, and an angel is standing there with a sword to kill you. I am saving your life. When we reflect on these things, the angel eventually told him, go forward and only speak what I say to you. So there it is, we are seeing forgiveness from Genesis, going straight down throughout the Bible. We have all fall short of the glory of God. All of us. And we need to be able to walk in faith. We need to be able to walk as the Lord wants us to walk and to forgive. Every one of us needs forgiveness. And if we need it, I believe we all should offer it first. Because if we don't forgive, we don't see God. Psalms 90 speak of, in the King James Version, the psalmist is saying 10. Some versions will tell you he observed that 10, all by strength, you may get a little more. But what's the quality of life? Sometimes some people refer to those who go way, way over as grave dodgers. Because the quality of life is not always what we would expect. Can't go where you want without assistance. Can't do this for yourself or that for yourself. We need to be able to hold on, brothers and sisters. Let's hold on to Christ. Let us remember at all times that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, and spiritual wickedness that is in high places. And I'll tell you a personal experience again. At work, if I go early and I prepare myself for the day, 99% of the time, the children come into the classroom and they're like sheep, and they get on with their work. I don't spend that time praying and sorting myself out. I'm wrestling. Chaos, total chaos. It's a wrestle. We may not always see what's going on among us, but it's not only what we see that's happening here. Sometimes it's a bit more. Sometimes it's so much more. But we need to walk on in faith. We need to walk on and have that courage and have that conviction that God is there with us and we are the salt of this earth and we are successful in whatever we do, in whatever we say. In the last days, the Bible says, perilous times shall come. Do we recognize we're living in the last days? Right. But it also says, the brothers and sisters will dream dreams. Okay? Also speak about tribulations to come. But it speak about other things. It's not only. And when we dream a dream, or we see a vision, and we know what's going to happen, we are given that to be able to act on that properly, to prepare ourselves for that situation. Brothers and sisters, thank you very much. And let's hope that as we move forward in faith, we remember that we need to forgive and walk on with faith. Thank you.